Coming up on this Tuesday edition of Daybreak, responding to a public backlash, the government will put forth revisions to its earlier proposal to revamp the country's tax system today, a plan that eases the burden on the middle class and salaried workers. The opposition party is demanding more taxes on big businesses and high-income earners. Korea managed to avoid a power shortage crisis on Monday after the public and corporations saved up to 2 million kilowatts of electricity through a nationwide power-saving campaign. Korea sizzled again. Neighboring Japan saw the mercury level hit a record 41 degrees Celsius. Plus, in a likely move to further cement its leadership, the Kim Jong-un regime amends the North Korean ruling party's 10 founding principles for the first time in nearly 4 decades. Daybreak begins now.
You're watching Daybreak on Tuesday, August 13th, and I'm Choi Yusan here in Seoul. We start with the ongoing debate over who should foot a bigger tax bill to fund the nation's new welfare policies. Just 4 days after announcing a tax code overhaul, the government said it will give the plan another look. This follows mounting criticism that the changes would favor the rich and leave the working and middle classes in the lurch. Kim Hyun-bin has more.
The government is set to review the recently announced tax code following heavy political backlash, which some say favor the rich and large businesses. During an emergency press conference late Monday evening, Finance Minister Hyun Ho-seok said his ministry would now re-examine the tax code from scratch.
We will revise the bill so it will become less of a burden to middle and lower class workers and look into ways to increase medical, education, and child care benefits, among others.
The change in course came just 4 days after the initial proposals were made, and hours after President Park Geun-hye issued a statement on Monday morning, calling on the government to look into the controversial plan again. She emphasized that it shouldn't cause more of a burden to the working and middle classes. The tax code proposal that was made last Thursday, which increased taxation on some 4.3 million salaried workers with an annual income of more than $31,000, drew criticism from the opposition party and the workers. The opposition Democratic Party argued that would put an excessive burden on the middle class and low-income salaried workers, and took to the streets in protest. So it's back to the drawing board for the finance ministry, which says it will draft a new revision plan and then discuss the issue with the ruling party. The DP, for its part, is still not satisfied. They said the government and the ruling party caused unnecessary confusion by releasing the tax proposal, only to scrap it and start the process over again from scratch. Kim Hyun-bin, Arirang News.
With mercury levels in some parts of the country reaching close to 40 degrees Celsius Monday, Koreans actively participated in the nationwide power-saving campaign to avoid a shortage crisis. Authorities say some 2 million kilowatts of electricity was conserved, maintaining the country's power reserves in the 4 million kilowatt range with a level 1 or prepare warning issued. The government has banned the use of air conditioning systems in public offices until Wednesday and has advised businesses to temporarily halt or reduce operations during peak energy consumption hours in the afternoon. But the nation is not out of the woods yet, as the heat wave is expected to persist until Wednesday. The Korea Power Exchange says it expects electricity demand to hover around 76 million kilowatts between 2 and 3 p.m. today, forcing the reserve level to dip below 2 million kilowatts. So how can we as individuals participate in the ongoing energy-saving campaign? Kim Min-ji has some advice on easy but effective ways to save energy at home and at work.
Demand for electricity is expected to top 80 million kilowatts this week, with the power used for cooling appliances accounting for about 20 million kilowatts of the total amount. Of these cooling appliances, the majority is consumed by air conditioners, which means the amount you avoid using at home will be a key factor in determining how much energy you can save. Experts say that up to 85 watts can be saved per household by turning off the air conditioner for just 30 minutes between the peak hours of 2 p.m. and 5 p.m. and switching to alternative options of using fans or ice packs instead. Let's take a look at other sources that eat up energy in your household. A vacuum cleaner sucks up an average of 1,182 watts of energy when cleaning. The washing machine, which runs for about an hour each time, also consumes up to 116 watts. So it's better to do your laundry all at once and avoid the peak hours. Moreover, you can save up to 35 watts with your electric rice cooker by switching off the thermal function. But it's office buildings and factories that make up for the bulk of energy consumption, as they account for more than half of the country's total power needs. Machines are often left on even when not in use, resulting in the waste of energy. Factories are advised to disconnect the power supply to machinery on standby and suspend air conditioning from time to time during 2 p.m. and 5 p.m. The Korea Electric Power Corporation plans to visit companies nationwide this week to encourage power-saving measures. Kim Min-ji, Arirang News.
It's not just Korea that has been seeing its fair share of sweltering days. Japan remains in the grip of a severe heat wave, with mercury levels in the country hitting record highs. According to the Japan Meteorological Agency, Japan recorded its highest ever temperature of 41 degrees Celsius on Monday in Shimanto-Kochi Prefecture, a coastal city on the western island of Shikoku. This beat the previous record of 40.9 degrees Celsius seen in August of 2007 in Kumagaya Shimata Prefecture. 6 people have died due to heat-related illnesses, and well over 1,000 have been hospitalized with heat stroke. The nation's weather agency is advising the public to stay hydrated and make good use of their air conditioners. Korea and Japan, which heavily rely on nuclear energy to keep up with electricity demand, have had some problems recently with operations of its nuclear facilities. Our UDN reports on how this is fueling concern about their high dependence on nuclear energy.
To countries like Japan, Taiwan, and Korea that lack natural resources, nuclear power has long been an essential source of energy. But safety concerns are causing many to reconsider the continued use of nuclear power. Just last week, the Taiwanese government announced one of the country's nuclear power plants may have been leaking radioactive water for the past 3 years. The leak was identified at the first nuclear power plant located at Shimen, not too far from the densely populated capital, Taipei. The use of nuclear power on an island like Taiwan has long been controversial, as a major leakage could contaminate the entire area. Activists use the example of the Fukushima nuclear accident when they call for a complete ban on nuclear energy in the country. The Japanese government also announced last week that 300 tons of radioactive water is pouring out of the Fukushima plant every day. It also admitted the plant operator's TEPCO is still struggling to handle the situation some 2.5 years after the accident. Here in Korea, 6 of the country's nuclear reactors are sitting idle, 3 for maintenance work, and the other 3 after they were found to contain parts with fake safety certificates. More plants could be subject to a shutdown as the investigation continues to see if additional test certificates have been faked. With so many of its nuclear power plants out of action and the scorching summer weather yet to reach its peak, the nation is bracing itself for a possible blackout. As one of the cheapest sources of energy, it's no wonder North Asian countries have become highly dependent on nuclear energy. A third of Korea's electricity comes from nuclear power, a third as well for Japan before the 2011 earthquake and tsunami, and nearly 20% for Taiwan. Yurian, Arirang News.
If you want the latest news from Korea and around the world.
Return to the negotiation.
President Park Geun-hye plans, given the current circumstances.
On your way to work or at home.
Defense Ministry. The legislature will convene a.
Tune into Daybreak on Arirang TV.
Prime Minister Shinzo Abe said Tuesday. With the two Koreas scheduled to continue their talks this week on reopening the joint Kaesang industrial complex, all eyes are on whether the North will show a change in its attitude. Experts say Pyongyang has so far refrained from any action that could affect the mood of the talks. Our Unification Ministry correspondent Hwang Sung-hee has the details on the upcoming meeting.
South Korea's Unification Ministry said Monday it is calmly preparing for its upcoming meeting with the North. The two Koreas are scheduled to meet on Wednesday in Kaesang to continue their discussions on reopening the jointly run factory zone. Pyongyang has yet to protest the joint military exercise between Seoul and Washington scheduled for next week. Last year, the North ramped up its rhetoric 2 weeks before the Ulji Freedom Guardian drills began, calling it an exercise for war. Pyongyang had earlier in March threatened to scrap the inter-Korean armistice agreement ahead of a joint military drill between the South and the United States. Experts say the North may be refraining from any actions that could break the momentum in dialogue. Such views come in line with comments made by North Korea's point man for cross-border affairs Kim Jong-un during a recent meeting with a Korean-American businessman who said the success of the joint business park will lead to further inter-Korean cooperation.
Kim made it clear that if the Kaesang industrial complex does well, so will other plans to develop the DMZ.
Experts say the upcoming meeting will be crucial in determining the direction of inter-Korean relations. The general consensus is that the North will maintain a conciliatory gesture for a swift normalization of the joint factory zone, but will react aggressively should the two Koreas fail to reach a favorable agreement on Wednesday. Hwang Sung-hee, Arirang News.
North Korea has, for the first time in 39 years, amended the founding principles of the Workers' Party, which are the law of the land in the North. And as our Han-daeun reports, one of the laws has apparently been rewritten to legitimize the hereditary transfer of power to Kim Jong-un.
Kim Jong-un, in his latest attempt to carry on the legacy of his family's rule, has amended the 10 founding principles of the nation's Workers' Party. The founding principles, experts say, have been a critical tool used by the Kim family over the last 6 decades to legitimize their dictatorship. They were last amended in 1974 when former leader Kim Jong-un was named as Kim Il-sung's successor. The most notable amendment this time, according to South Korea's Chosunilbo newspaper, can be found in clause number 1. It went from, "We must honor the great leader Comrade Kim Il-sung with all our loyalty," to, "We must honor the great leader Comrade Kim Il-sung and General Kim Jong-il with all our loyalty." By adding Kim Jong-un's father Kim Jong-il and putting him on par with state founder Kim Il-sung, the principle, by default, now idolizes the current young leader. In Item 1, Article 3, the word dictatorship of the proletariat has been removed, while the Juche revolution was added. The Juche idea, which translates into spirit of self-reliance, has long been a term used by the North Korean government to justify its policy decisions while isolating its people from the rest of the world. Kim Jong-un also didn't forget a check and balance for the state's top military and party officials. He added a new clause in Item 6 that reads, "All actions that go against the principles conducted under the authority of individual party officials must be strictly banned." Pundits say the clause partially reflects the instability of Kim Jong-un's leadership. North Korea and the principles also included language that states the country has built a strong military based on its nuclear power. It's the first time nuclear-related items have been included. Han-daeun, Arirang News.
Korean-American Kenneth Bae, who is detained in North Korea, has pleaded with the U.S. government to help him get out of the communist state. After losing more than 20 kilograms and reportedly suffering from a range of health problems, the 45-year-old tour operator and Christian missionary has been moved from his prison camp to a hospital in Pyongyang. According to the pro-North Korean newspaper Chosun Shinbo on Monday, Bae is suffering from chronic diabetes, an enlarged heart, liver problems, and back pain. He was arrested in November and sentenced to 15 years of hard labor in May on charges of attempting to overthrow the regime. Japan's second quarter GDP missed the mark as companies kept a tight grip on their investments as they worried about prospects for a sustained recovery. The Japanese government announced Monday that the GDP figure for April to June period expanded at an annualized rate of 2.6%, well shy of expectations of 3.6% and far short of the first quarter figure of 4.1%. The Japanese economy did show some signs of recovery, though. Government spending increased 0.8%, and the country's exports rose 3%. It's been 35 years since China and Japan signed the Treaty of Peace and Friendship, but bilateral relations are far from friendly these days. With no official events marking the milestone, the 35th anniversary of the peace treaty passed by quietly. A forum with experts from both countries was scheduled to take place in Beijing to commemorate the agreement, but was postponed at China's request. That fits the recent trend, with no high-level political contact between Beijing and Tokyo for almost a year now. A territorial dispute over the Senkaku or Diaoyu Islands is at the center of the strained ties, along with a host of unresolved historical issues. For over 6 months, dozens of inmates held in the U.S. Guantanamo Bay Naval Prison have been on a mass hunger strike. And to prevent the prisoners dying of starvation, prison authorities are reportedly force-feeding inmates by tube. 38 out of 54 inmates taking part in the hunger strike are on the internal feeding list and fed twice a day. The detainees refer to the practice as torture, while a senior medical officer at the base says that the process is necessary to preserve life. The men were imprisoned after the September 11th attack in 2001 and have been held in Guantanamo without trial for over a decade.
And a good Tuesday morning to you all as we kick things off in baseball. Of course, no baseball on Mondays, meaning a bit of break from the heat for both the players and the fans. And recently, the KBO managers came out saying that the magic number for the playoffs is 70 wins. Now, to see who's getting closer to the 70 mark, let's take a look at the current standings in the KBO. Of course, taking a look here, first off, the Samsung Lions in first place once again, just 16 wins short of 70 wins. The LG Twins right behind them, just a game back, with the Tucson Bears just barely holding on to their third place spot as they trail the Samsung Lions by 6 games. The Nexen Heroes, despite their struggles, remain in fourth place. And now over to the bottom half of the league, the Lotte Giants continue to climb up, just trailing Nexen by 2 games, with the Kia Tigers falling fast, now 12 games behind the league leaders. And check this out, guys, the SK Wyverns storming back, just 5.5 games behind the Nexen Heroes. Meanwhile, the NC Dinos and the Hanwha Eagles in 8th and 9th place, respectively. And staying in the KBO later tonight, another week of baseball begins here in the nation, with the pennant race hotter than ever. So let's take a look at some key matchups for this week. Now, of course, the biggest series kicking off later tonight as the first place Samsung Lions take on the second place LG Twins at Daegu Stadium. Now, so far in the 11 games that they played so far this season, the LG Twins have won 6, while Samsung have won 5. With LG just a game behind the Samsung Lions, this series might be able to send the LG Twins up to the top. Elsewhere, from Thursday to Friday, the Nexen Heroes will be facing off against the Lotte Giants, as Lotte just trailed Nexen by 2 games for that last playoff spot. Now, Lotte has been red hot thanks to Chun Jin-woo, while the Nexen Heroes have been struggling in the second half of the season. And now over to the K-League Classic, where the Ulsan Hyundai Tigers were able to seal a deal with their big man, Kim Shin-wook. Now, with his contract over in December of this year, the Ulsan Hyundai Tigers were able to sign a 3-year extension with Kim. The 196-centimeter striker has been linked with several teams overseas, including Everton in the English Premier League. However, with the extension, Ulsan now has the chance to sell him to other teams within the 3 years, which is likely. Meanwhile, Kim Shin-wook has scored 14 goals and tallied 5 assists in the 21 games so far this season. And moving on, if you've been following the South Korean national basketball team during their third-place finish at the Asian Basketball Championships, you might have noticed one name that was being mentioned day after day, Kim Min-gu. But who is Kim Min-gu? Now, the 22-year-old from Kyunghee University was chosen as a backup for Cho Sang-min before he lit it up in the Asian Basketball Championships, putting up 114 points in total, including a combined 48 points in the semifinals against the Philippines and Taiwan during the third-fourth place matchup. The young South Korean was also chosen as the top 5 best player in the tournament, as he's expected to go first in the upcoming KBL draft in October. And over to the UFC, where the Korean Zombie continues to fight off the octagon as well. Only his fight is actually against the Japanese Rising Sun symbol. Now, during his last UFC event in Brazil, he personally requested the UFC to ban all Rising Sun symbols that can be seen on fight gears. Now, more recently, the South Korean fighter messaged the UFC welterweight champion George St. Pierre, who was seen wearing a gi that had the Imperial Japanese symbol. Now, Chung added that the symbol is like the Nazi swastika and should be banned from the UFC. And of course, finishing things off in the PGA, while all the golf fans expected Tiger Woods-Phil Mickelson duel, turns out both of them actually did poorly during the PGA Championships. But not the case for Jason Dufner. While it was Jim Furyk highlighting most of the event, it was Jason Dufner who pumped his fist in victory on the last day as he won the PGA Championship, winning his first major of his career. Now, Dufner goes bogey-free for the first 15 holes on the last day before finishing off with bogeys on the 17th and 18th. But no matter, he still finishes off with 10 under overall, with KJ Choi finishing tied for 47th. And with that said, that's going to wrap it up for me. This has been SJ. See you guys again for your sports needs.
Happy Tuesday morning to you. I'm Lee with your latest weather updates. No joke, it's so hot. And I think most of us are getting tired of with scorching August heat. Well, I do have a good news for you. Since the Malbok has passed, which is the final day of the 3 hottest days in Korea, it shouldn't get any worse, but similar blistering weather condition will last for a couple of more days, and temperatures should get gradually cool down towards the weekend. But not today. We are expecting the same weather pattern as yesterday. Steamy condition across the nation. The heat wave warning and advisories are expanded to much of the country. So really, we gotta take care of our health. Try to avoid caffeinated drinks and soda and replace them with water. And it looks like pretty much a repeat condition is on tap for tomorrow. Sun will be shining down in the afternoon, sending temperatures into mid-30s in most regions. Well, right now we have a very thin layer of the clouds covering up the peninsula, and sun is shining much of the country with 85% of humidity this morning, making for a sticky start to the day, and it should be as hot as yesterday. So let's take a look at those numbers. The capital and Busan should jump up to 33 degrees Celsius, that's 91 degrees in Fahrenheit, and sizzling heat wave continues in Daegu and Gwangju at 37 and 36. Now for other regions, it looks like Jeju should be slightly cooler than yesterday at 33, while rest of 3 places, Daejeon, Dokdo, and Mount Gyeongbuk will be all topping out at 34. Now that's all for Korea, and here's the global forecast for viewers around the world. That's all for me at this hour. Enjoy your morning commute and have a wonderful day.
And those are the stories we have for you at this hour. Stay with us throughout the day as we bring you the latest headlines.